The first Mass ever was on Holy Thursday, the Last Supper. The second Mass was 3 days later, on Easter Sunday, when Jesus encounters these two disciples who were leaving Jerusalem to head to Emmaus. Jesus begins by going through Moses and the prophets, which is akin to the first reading in response to our Psalm at Mass, before he then goes on to show how it pertains to him, which is like the Gospel, before subsequently explaining and interpreting the Scriptures for them, which is like a homily. And then Jesus enters their house and breaks bread with them, which is the liturgy of the Eucharist. But perhaps most importantly is what these two disciples do next, when they run back to Jerusalem to announce the good news of the resurrection to the apostles. But it's only much later that these two disciples realize that their hearts are burning within them while they walk with Jesus along the way. Because the reality is, sometimes we also don't recognize our hearts burning within us when we're at Mass. In fact, when these two disciples were walking with Jesus, they had become disillusioned, which is why they don't call Jesus the Messiah or the Son of God, but they say Jesus the prophet. And they say that they had hoped, in the past tense, that Jesus would be the one to redeem Israel. So like these two disciples, sometimes we go to Mass and we feel like we get nothing out of Mass. We come to Mass and we're distracted and unfocused. Or our kids start crying and we feel like we can't pray at Mass. Or we're so weighed down by our worries and our struggles that we feel like we're getting nothing out of Mass. And it's only much later that we realize that our hearts are burning within us when we were at Mass. So I encourage you this week just to look back at a past Mass in your life where you encountered Christ in His Word and in the Eucharist. And when you come to Mass this weekend, even if you feel like you can't pray and focus, simply to offer your struggles and your lack of focus during the offertory. And then before you go to bed that night, to simply ask yourself, how did I encounter Christ at Mass today? What is something Christ spoke to me? What's something I can take away from Mass this day? Because when you start to do so, you'll realize that your heart's burning within you because you've been nourished by His Word and His body. And then you can go to and share the good news with others because we're all called to go in peace, glorifying the Lord by our life.